know what's interesting, right? Of like, have you on the pod, because when I first ever listened to Kasabian was FIFA 2004.
Yeah.
That was the first
Yeah,
time. And it was like every person who's ever played that game, like you have, like, I think my era is a little bit, like, I don't really play it as much now.
No.
I was kind of the era where it was like PS1, PlayStation, like you shoot and it goes top corner.
Of course, yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's
I know
those
the one.
iconic tracks
Yeah.
that kind of like define the game,
Mm-hmm.
because I think it's a lot different now where it's like, you know, the playlists and stuff come out and stuff like that. But I think then it was like, you know, like a lot of us didn't even have memory cards, so we was just putting it on pause and going to school
Of course.
for like 6 hours and then coming back and playing. Do you know what I mean?
I know the one, yeah.
You're like, I've got
Yeah,
Champions
yeah.
League final.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that was my first taste. So
And then it was like you said, it was one track, so you could really
yeah,
infiltrate the mind. It's like, oh, this song again, like, Jesus.
Yeah, but it makes those tracks so much more iconic now.
Yeah.
Where I
of
think
course.
my first ever FIFA game was, I think it was FIFA 99. My mum got me for, I had a PlayStation 1, she got it chipped. So I had FIFA 99, but like, that's
Chipped, remember that?
yeah. I had a chip PlayStation. My mum used to get me the
Remember that.
games from the market.
Yeah.
And again, like, for example, Fatboy Slim, Right About Now, Funk Soul, Brother
Yeah.
Check. But I always remember that from the game.
Of course, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So and then I think that kind of led me down a path to the music you guys make.
Mm.
And I don't know if, like, I had this weird fascination with your music because one of my favorite directors is Guy Ritchie.
Of course.
And, you know, things like Snatch and Lock, Stock. And it was always that similar sound of music.
Yeah.
And I always felt like, I don't know if it was one of your tracks that was ever in his films, whether it's, I'm not too sure if it's Lock, Stock or Snatch, or he done another one, Revolver, but it was that kind of like Football Factory, like
yeah.
rock. Do you know what I mean?
No,
like,
definitely. It's aggro at that time. Wasn't
yeah. So talk to
Yeah.
me like about what it's like around that era where, you know, you guys started in 97.
Yeah.
And what is it like being in a band in the 90s? Because I have a massive fascination with the 90s in general.
I mean, so for me, like, songwriting at that time, that's kind of like coming out of the, you know, football theme music, and then I found songwriting, and that became like, and to this day is my obsession. Like I'm a song man. Like, I've written every track from day one, and, you know, 9 albums in or whatever. So like when I found that as something that you could do, and like, I've quite an obsessive personality, but if it's directed in something like that, then it's like got an outlet, you know?
Yeah.
So at that time, sort of 97, I'm just learning to write songs, really, and just kind of copying the classics. Like, didn't have any, you know, it's not like you can now. There's way more information about how you write a song, but back then you just kind of, I like that song, and just copy the structure, and you kind of find your way. So that was kind of like just writing, and then, you know, getting a sampler, getting a computer, producing, doing everything at home in this little bedroom. So like, in the same way, we never put songs out like the traditional band sense where you'd go in a room and record. I was making it like, so I loved hip hop, so I was making rock music like you would produce a hip hop record. Like, things like Cypress Hill or like Wu-Tang or DJ Shadow. I was like, really loved the way they made records, and then thought, well, that would be, if you combine that with then the kind of the rock psychedelic sound, you kind of got something new and exciting.
Yeah, of course, man.
So that's kind of where that first album, that sound came from. It was trying to combine like hip hop production with like electronic and psychedelic music. So you kind of had this amalgamation, and then we released it, and it was like early noughties, and it just, as you could imagine, was just insane.
Yeah, no, it exploded, man, because you guys have got iconic tracks, like, so iconic that I have to ask, like, do you ever have moments where you just sit at home, or you're just in a place, maybe you're driving your car, and you might hear a whiff of your song somewhere, or you might go to, I don't know, you hear it on someone's speaker on a plane or something, and you're like, that's my track. Like,
yes,
when, you know, like, where it's different to being at the concert, or you know, you're in the place, but then, like, I always say that's the coolest thing about art is that you created something, and then there is that thing where you've heard it and you're like, I remember making that thing. That was only imagination in my head.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
How is that process for you? And that's what I'm always so intrigued about. Because in my head, I feel like I'm a musician. I'm definitely not. Do you know what I mean? I spit bars in the car, bro. Like,
I bet. Well, you know what? Like stand up, it's very like it's such a the lineage is so similar.
Oh yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Like,
Some ways, yeah.
And you know, like your obsession with like the right word at the right, and you know, timing of the right word and the right time said the right way. Stand up and lyric writing is like it's the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And a lot of the lyrics I love more than ever the ones that make me laugh. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, of
So
course, man.
You find the sweet spot between that.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, that's the one.
So like in that early period, did it live up to your expectation of what it was like to be in a band of some of the bands probably you looked up to, and did it like, because sometimes I feel like for us on the outside it's like, oh, it must have been crazy, wild parties, throwing TVs out of hotels. Does it live up to that expectation, and then is it almost like a quick burnout, or is it kind of like the expectation where it's like you have to, because like anything, you get older and it gets boring, and it's also like, you know, your fans evolve and you're like, look, I'm a dad now, I just like to just watch. Do you know what I mean?
Definitely.
So like,
no, those early days like were as wild and as beautiful and as crazy. Like we lived it as hard as we could, because we were in the mindset of this is gonna last one album, and we are here. Plus, also, like the influences, that time, you know, that's what you were supposed to do.
Yeah.
And you're daft. You're like 24, so you go, I'm gonna do that. That sounds great. And you just go, and I suppose there's a sense of, with art, you kind of feel like there are no rules, you know, so you live on that basis.
Yeah, of course.
So yeah, and when we were sort of out, we were out for days, and you'd be all the things you could imagine. I mean, going into the stories, we lived how we were supposed to live.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I reckon I maybe got to a point by the third record where I made the choice of going, right, I can see where this is going.
Yeah.
I've read all the autobiographies. And I'm at that point, right, where this is going to that next chapter where it's like, oh no, it gets. So I was like, right, I love writing, so I'm just gonna make sure that I protect that side of my brain, and that was the moment where I was like, I just like doing that part of it.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
And
man.
then like I dip in now and again, but yeah, those early days were just, we lived a life.